Implausible as they may be, fast zombies are still pretty terrifying. Tonight's review is on Train to Busan, which has been considered by many to be one of the best horror films from 2016, if not the best. In fact, I have a friend at work who, after seeing this film, was on this kick for a while trying to get me to watch this movie. I mean, every single day it would just be like, "Hey, have you seen Train to Busan? Have you seen Train to Busan yet? Have you seen it? Seriously, dude, you need to watch this movie." I said, watch it. So I went ahead and watched it, and honestly, there's really not much for me to say about this film that hasn't been said already, so fuck it. I'm just gonna share my thoughts on it. If you have heard multiple reviews for Train to Busan, you're really not going to hear anything new. But on the other hand, if you're just now hearing about this movie for the first time, then here are some fresh thoughts. By the way, I almost forgot to give this warning ahead of time, but Train to Busan is a South Korean movie. It is spoken in the Korean language, but even if you don't know that language and you don't like to read subtitles, I believe the Blu-ray does come with an English language dub. Now, the plot to this movie is about as simple and straightforward as it gets. As the title would suggest, this film takes place on a train that is headed towards Busan while a zombie outbreak is going on. Somebody who's infected ends up boarding the train, they end up infecting someone else, and it goes on to become this fight for survival in a very claustrophobic environment. Now, going into Train to Busan, I was made to understand that this is not only a well done horror movie, but also an action movie, so I was kind of expecting it to be along the lines of Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead. But as it turns out, the only thing it really has in common with that film is fast zombies. Um, there are some very well done action scenes in this film, but it's for the purpose of building suspense and making you fear for the characters' lives. There's nothing really gratuitous in the film. There aren't really any shots that are just there for the sake of looking cool, like somebody doing a flip or shooting zombies in super slow motion. I mean, if you're looking for that kind of movie, just watch Resident Evil. Also, I like how they portray the zombies in this movie. As I've already mentioned, they are fast running zombies, which I know doesn't make sense, especially to a lot of the purists out there, but keep in mind that you're dealing with dead bodies which have come to life to feed on the flesh of living people. The concept by itself is pretty far fetched, so I think I can forgive this one. And I like how they're just so completely mindless in this movie. They don't know how to use tools, they don't even know how to open doors. I think it makes sense in a way because if you're dealing with these dead people who have no memories of who they used to be or what they've learned in the past, I mean, how are they going to remember how to perform these basic functions? However, what makes this movie a cut above the rest more than anything is the characters that are portrayed in it. Um, when I mentioned that the action was for the purpose of making you fear for the characters' lives, it genuinely works because all of the main characters are very well written and well acted. More than anyone, the film concentrates on the character of this father who is so invested in his job that he never really takes the time to spend with his daughter and just be a dad to her. And this is a character archetype that we've seen in other movies before, but it is portrayed genuinely well in this film. The father is very heavily flawed, and his daughter is more pure and sympathetic. She never gets annoying in the slightest, and There are some scenes between the two at the beginning of the movie that are genuinely heartbreaking to watch. Now, I'm sure that if you've watched other reviews for Train to Busan, you may have heard about this next character I'm going to get into, but easily my favorite out of the entire ensemble was this guy called Dong Seok. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing his name right, but I mean, you can clearly see how much I like him for the fact that I was willing to learn his name. This guy is just a really awesome, badass character. First of all, he is very brutally honest. He never sugarcoats the truth. Whenever he's talking to someone, he always speaks his mind, but at the same time, it never comes from a place of pure mean spiritedness. He's never saying shit just to break someone down. He's just giving them the honest truth. And he's the type of person you would want to have on your team in a zombie apocalypse scenario. If not that, you would actually want to be this guy because while he does have a healthy fear of the zombies, he never just cowers in fear in a situation where he's trapped. He never just waits to be rescued. He always tackles the situation head on in any way he can, and he's not afraid to just run up to these things and punch them straight in the face. Now, on the opposite side of the spectrum, aside from the fact that the zombies provide the main threat in this movie, there is also a human villain among the cast who is the type of person who I suspect no one would want to be in an apocalypse scenario, but I'm sure that a lot of people would turn out to be this way. He's just this very pathetic, slimy character who will do literally anything to ensure his own survival. He doesn't give a fuck about anyone else on this train, and they really did a good job portraying this character because I have honestly not hated a villainous character in a movie this much since watching Stephen King's The Mist. Yes, he is every bit as loathsome as Miss Carmody. Another thing about this movie that was kind of hyped up for me going in was how much of a tearjerker it's supposed to be. I've heard this from multiple sources, and I was kind of fearing that it would have the same effect as Old Yeller, which, I mean, was so hyped up as a movie that made everyone cry, and I actually didn't see it until I was already a full grown adult. And by the time I finally got to it, after hearing so much hype, the ending actually didn't affect me in that way. I mean, it was sad, but I already knew what was coming, so there were no tears. With this movie, once again, I thought that it was going to be that same effect. Oh, everyone cried during this movie. I'm probably not going to, though, but it ended up surprising me. There was a point where I honestly thought the movie couldn't get any sadder. There was a very tragic event that took place. My voice isn't cracking, I swear. I'm still getting over a chest cold. I'm gonna see if I can keep this take. But anyhow, there's a very tragic moment that takes place towards the middle of the film, which I honestly thought was going to be the climax of tear-jerking moments that it had to offer. But then there was yet another scene later on that was just rough to sit through. It really just cut me deep. So that's yet another respect where it's very much worth the hype. Hopefully I haven't ruined it for you, but I mean, if this movie doesn't affect you on an emotional level, I have my doubts that you're a human being. There is one solitary nitpick that I have with this movie. It honestly didn't break the movie by any means because, again, the characters in it were so well done that I just kind of forgot about it. But it's the manner in which the ball gets rolling, where the one infected person boards the train and chaos ensues. The way that it played out in this movie was about as believable as me trying to smuggle a gun onto an airplane and succeeding by just walking on board, pointing it in the air. In the end, I would definitely say that Train to Busan was worth the hype for me. If you are interested in seeing an action horror film in which the action does have a purpose and the characters are well written and you actually give a shit about what's happening, then this movie definitely comes highly recommended. And with that, I hope you all have a good one.